embraced by eternal night. In a pleasedly shorter time than had they been relegated to traveling by foot, they reached their destination, the Whiteley Mansion, which is now a ghost mansion.
We've made great time. Not as close as I'd like, but will stopping here do? It's perfect. Too close and the yard would see us coming.
Jack dismounted and took to their immediate surroundings with trained observation. Nothing was amiss.
Very well, then. Just make it quick. I'll make my way inside the mansion soon enough, but if Scotland Yard finds me, I'll need you to sort out what we started. I'll be all right. I ain't stupid enough to let myself get caught, so you focus on getting her safe. But with your leg the way it is, I am worried. Oh. Well, it's just a scratch. Don't mind it. I'll make my way in easily enough thanks to the fog. Speaking of thanks for bringing me here. Even if I was to disappear for good, I should think someone who lives in the sun suits her better than a boy in the shadows like me.
Aww. A boy who lives in the sun. But you're like the moon and the sun together, Jack.
Oh, don't say that. Much too ominous for my liking. It's true, though. All right, then. I'm off.
Within seconds, Jack was swept into the fog and completely out of sight. It's a neat trick.
All I can do now is pray Bradley hasn't found her yet.
With first stealth, Jack slithered into the mansion's garden, leaning against one of its larger trees to further clothe himself in the night. From there, he can make a detailed assessment of the mansion's goings-on.
Don't get the sense anyone's here, but there's light inside. Then...
The unease squeezed at his chest so strongly that his heart may well have burst.
Did she listen and run, then? But why are there so many guards still about?
The mansion was locked at its entrance. It would be folly on his part to attempt barging through the front as circumstances were, and so he climbed to the first-floor roof to enter through a window.
If I've got any luck left in me, then it's a simple ruse. But if I'm too late...
The window he had chosen for a second time was the one leading to her room. The curtains, which no doubt would have been drawn by one as observant as Pendleton, were curiously open. And the door? Why, that was half open as well, suggesting she may have left in a hurry. There was little else to see that piqued his interest.
Seems her room's empty. Thank God.
Impatient as Jack was to confirm Emily was well, he could settle for not bearing witness to a nightmare of viscera upon peering within.
It's much too early to fit myself in cheer. Pains me to admit, but breaching the mansion would be child's play to Bradley. I want to hope you believed me, Emily. More than anything.
Jack was sincere. Whatever judgment the law would grace him, as it seemed inevitable upon the end of this horrific affair, he would embrace it. He would smile in his cell and greet the noose if it meant he could prevent her an early journey to heaven. Or, as it was not out of the realm of possibility, he would meet his end sooner by Bradley's hand. The destination for him was the same. The difference was that Bradley would be joining him.
Curse it. It's too quiet here. Eerily so. Rumor has it the Ripper murders his victims without making a sound, and that's held true till now. I want to think you'll save Emily, Jack, but this is no friendly bout in a ring between men. His skill's as monstrous as it is beyond you. I wish I knew what was happening, or knew she's all right at the very least. The police will sooner arrest Jack than twiddle their thumbs and wait for an explanation. Jack's a cunning bloke, but his leg isn't helping him now. Maybe I ought to stop idling here.
His mind made up, Watson approached the mansion and called out to Sergeant Ryan, who was one of many guards assigned to patrol its face.
Evening, sir. Everything going well? Oh, evening to you as well, Watson. We've detected nothing out of the ordinary, but we can't be too careful. I hope this doesn't come across as too sudden, but I wanted to see how the situation looks inside. Now wait just a minute, Watson. Is there any reason why? Why? I want to see for myself that Emily is safe. Well then, that I can permit. I'll have an officer escort you inside. That's alright. I can go in on my own. It is not alright! The Ripper may well attempt to sneak inside. Even I don't have the authority to let you wander in unaccompanied.
The sergeant appeared to sympathize with Watson's concerns, but sympathy would not be enough for him to grant exceptions.
Does that mean I'm a potential suspect as well? It's for the best, Watson. And partly for your own protection, I'll have you know. Besides, we have a number of men currently positioned inside. Were something unfortunate to happen, they would have called for assistance.
Uh-oh.
But what if they were killed before they could? I'll command her for a clean escape if she has. Don't see an air of evidence as to where she's gone. I cannot be certain that she's been killed, but I don't smell blood. Be safe. Please be safe, Emily.
Jack lurked in silence till he reached the main hall. Silence like this was telling to a man of his experience. Whether they absconded in favor of another location or were taken by force, there was no one else but him in the mansion now. Yet this was not a signal to poke his nose around every corner any which way. He still remained as noiseless as his surroundings, and every step taken made so little sound that it would be no exaggeration to wonder if he walked on air. This was assisted by the carpeting at his feet, which was of notably exquisite quality, helping to muffle any extraneous creaks and taps one would naturally make. He had to dispel this as a complete boon, of course. He repeated to himself, what was helpful to him was helpful to Bradley also. There's lights here. Jack moved from the hall to near the main entrance, which was open and left few hiding places fit for a full-grown man. At once, the spacious area was occupied with the sound of the door creaking.
No! Who is that? The police? Or...
Jack sank into the hallway before his presence was made known. It was only upon seeing it was Watson who entered that he relaxed his guard.
Emily! Are you alright? Answer if you're in here!
Watson's voice was strained with a fearful tension. He shouted again and again, unable to suppress his worry.
Watson! Emily isn't...
Jack made himself known and stepped into better light.
Oh! I know you!
He realized his mistake only when it was too late to reverse it. A meek-voiced, stammered from behind Watson, shortly followed by a familiar dark-haired man. His voice shifted from shaken to stunned elation.
Ryan, no! He's... Well done, Watson! You were trying to alert me to his presence, weren't you? I wasn't! Nothing of the sort! Ugh. You're Jack Millers, aren't you? Rather, you're Jack the Ripper. Apprehend that boy!
Yes, sir!
Guards from all their varied stations were alerted and arrived with heavy steps to raise their weapons at the culprit, Jack. He didn't have the time to wonder just how capable each of these men were with their aim. So many cascading in at once, guns were pointed and fingers lined their triggers. He could not escape without harm. Instinct willing, Jack made ready for fresh pain and a clumsy exit, which soon became completely unnecessary.
Don't do that! He's alright. He's my friend. So don't be so harsh with him.
Watson came between the many officers and Jack.
Watson! The elegant... Is it really so surprising? I'm the one who brought you here knowing you were injured. Keep at it and you'll land yourself in alt water as much as I am. That's fine by me. Now go! Hurry! You're the only one who can stop Jack the Ripper. You know that.
The camaraderie was charming, but it did little to serve their dilemma. Watson raised his voice, to which the yard gave a booming response of their own.
Not so. We can't allow it. We mustn't. We put ourselves on the line as much as you have for this case.
The response came from Inspector Lestrade, who presented himself with apt timing and a stern brow to intimidate the young man into compliance.
We cannot allow there to be more victims!
There was no pause between him speaking and taking fire at Jack's leg. Oh, poor Jack's leg.
Gah. Jack! Oh, it didn't go through, but...
Arrest him!
The inspector's order was absolute. Officers charged to surround Jack, pushing Watson's broad form aside as they did so. Jack resisted to his best effort, one that was quite offensive to the eyes, as his injury left him with little energy to do much resisting.
Don't!
A futile protest. There was no stopping the arrest of the false Ripper.
Damn it! I can't let this happen!
Despite his adverse circumstance, this false Ripper continued to think of Emily.
I hope all is well with her. Stay safe, Emily!
Oh no. We're going to save our boy. The corridor where we walked was a vision of chilled stone. It was so dark that even with a lantern to guide us, I could see little more before me than a pit of blackness. It concentrated to an endless point, only stretching backwards through cracks like veins. Pendleton, how much longer does this go on?
We still have quite a ways, I regret to say, for it shall lead all the way to the western outskirts of London. Are your legs feeling tired by any chance?
No, rather, this is a pleasant stroll to me. The clack, clack, clack of his and my boots occupied much sound for a time. Clack, clack, clack. Clack, clack, clack. Each echo was brief as a puff of smoky breath in the air. There was not much to note otherwise. Water from above dripped into tiny pools, and we took care to avoid them. I do feel some guilt slipping away whilst the yard stands guard for me, completely unaware of my absence. But my sole duty is to escape and ensure my survival, isn't it?
Very much so, my lady. There are times when it is necessary to deceive your allies in order to deceive your enemies. For now, you are to focus entirely on your own safety.
Pendleton was good enough to carry several days and supplies for me. Dang. This was not the first great change I'd been thrust into. Indeed, I could recall the day I first moved to London from the countryside. I was so fevered with joy then. It felt as if my life were beginning anew, and I wished today granted the same feeling. After the culprit is caught, Pendleton, will I be able to attend school again?
Of course you will. Jack the Ripper's case has thrown London into a panic, but it cannot last. Life will continue as usual after the culprit is caught, I'm sure.
I'd like that. Then after the case is solved, I think I'd like to make a little school of my own. I know it won't be possible to make anything on a similar scale to Harrington, but I should dearly like to see the poor children of the East End have a place where they may study. A place where they can learn to read, to write. A place where they will have food to eat. Humble goals, but it would move me to see it. You really are a beacon.
My lady. The East End has more than the poor, the criminals and those forced to abandon their old lives abroad. It is a gathering of malfeasance, of evildoers.
That is precisely why the people there need education and welfare. With Her Majesty's blessing, I was able to attend school for the first time, and it made me so happy. But there was apprehension. I feared I wouldn't fit in. Through all my life, I had no need to wonder these things, but then the thought plagued me. What if I can't be of help to anyone? What if no one would accept me? What if I made no friends? What if I were so peculiar that others would watch my every move like some sort of anomaly? All that happiness from a single letter, and yet the nerves were like nothing else.
I never knew, my lady.
We were steady with our walking the entire time we conversed, but I knew well how closely Pendleton paid my feelings mind. I'm grateful that my nerves were for nothing. Every one of them welcomed me with open arms. It took time for me to adjust to my new life there, but they accepted my good points and my flaws. I did stand out in some ways, of course, but I was hardly the only one who did so. That gave me a different sort of comfort amongst my schoolmates. There's those two that have disappeared for this entire route. It also helped me to see school in an entirely new light. We have our studies, our friends, our teachers, our private worries, and our reasons for apprehension. All of these come together as more than the conventional studying as we know it. There is more to absorb than what is written in our textbooks. Oh, what a wonderful, wonderful thing school is to me. I took a peek at Pendleton's expression when he did not respond. He looked as though he were lost for words. Did I say something strange?
The opposite, my lady. May I ask if you thought this through yourself?
Is it so unusual? I don't know anyone who would recommend I open a school. I imagine you're opposed to it as well.
Well, well. It truly does run in the family.
Pardon? What does that mean?
Oh, simply musing. I feel very certain you will see your friends and teachers again. Now, let us hurry.
Indeed. Talking about Mom, probably. I wonder what you're doing now, Jack. Wherever you are, I wish you well. These two always thinking about each other, so cute. A sole silhouette stood to oversee the city from atop the tower of London's highest point. It was Bradley, thin in frame and the palest of whites in color. Bradley, who cloaked himself in a red robe and made himself a master of blending into darkness.
Got what you deserve, Jack. It's maddening to think after all that you still got caught. Idiot. Still got no one to blame but yourself. If only you killed it like you was supposed to. Colonel was too generous with all he gave you, saintly so, but look where that's got him. More bloodied up on the outside than in now. And now the people assume you done the same for all those tots instead of me. All the work I put into Jack the Ripper, and you get copped. You get rotted in a cell. A horse's shit on the street is what you was, and nothing more. Couldn't do a simple job of gutting proper, and so you ain't worthy of the name I built. Emily Whiteley gets to carry on 'cause of you, too. But you knew it wasn't gonna be forever. Someone in the Professor's Information Network will have found her for long.
His eyes were glassy domes. They were empty beneath their surface. Only the city, a glimmer of snowflakes to be shaken as lights below him flickered, could be perceived.
Now, tremble pretty for me. Tremble when you realize I'll be the one to kill her in the most gruesome way I please. Society shan't find peace till it directs its aura, anguish, and anger onto you. Don't matter if you was innocent. Really, people just seek an easy target, and you made yourself the bullseye. They can't handle all that hatred in them, so if they got no one to be angry with, they go balmy. Couldn't ask for better. From now on, the one Professor Moriarty will treasure over the rest of the filth will be me.
The giggle he suppressed elicited in its place an exquisite quiver from his chest, one which extended to his fingers and down to his toes and bloated his figure with far too much joy to be contained.
Tomorrow will be a sprightly affair upon reading the paper. God bless it! Jack the Ripper's merry murder spree shall come to an end. Or will it?
And from where he once stood remained only air. What a butt. So he did kill the prostitutes. That's kind of disappointing, really. I guess the drug is just making him go crazier and crazier, so the murders just keep getting worse and worse. The thick, heavy iron door screeched as it opened. Beefeater? The heck's a beefeater?
Get in.
Ugh.
No mercy was had when Jack was tossed into a lightless cell. It was cold. He would have sooner thought the stone were blocks of ice if he could not see them, though it wouldn't have mattered. Clumps of straw were scattered into what was once a makeshift bed, now quite impossible to do any sleeping on, with several of those having dried red marks speckled along them together with the stains on the ground. Most light he had was cast out as the guard shut the door.
Don't think you have any chance of escape, Ripper.
Must be a beefy. Tough lot, they.
The Tower of London had an esteemed guard fit for its massive stature and history, yeoman warders whose name became as known as their striking black and red uniforms. And then there was their other name, Beefeaters, created by the casual tongue. The name's origin was lost in time, though many rumors and speculations thrived. Some were complex, others were as dull as believing they were once paid solely with beef. Whatever the reason, they were men of reputation, and this man charged with Jack's imprisonment was the picture of such. A derisive glare crossed his squinted eyes and scrunched nose through the bars of the door.
You're a rather docile one for a mass murderer. Almost doubt myself for thinking you're the same man who's terrified all of London. No matter. The people will finally have their due rest. They may sleep securely in their beds tonight. Perhaps you ought to begin your prayers to God if you wish to live. His ears may be covered, but I shall keep mine open for a listen. All I can do for a sinner, really.
I prefer the wall to your voice. Leave off then, or I shall become angrier.
Huh. You might think you're a fright now, but you're only a lamb behind bars.
The lamb had enough bluster in its bleating to send the man retiring with a sprint. Jack could hear the speedy clicking of heels, which shortly became mute in the distance. The iron door entrapping him was thick. He knew immediately it would take an unruly amount of physical exertion to budge it.
The hell am I supposed to do now? I can't sit here twiddling me thumbs while Bradley preys on Emily.
The only light provided for him now was a barred skylight, a dismal, worthless square that did little to brighten his direct surroundings. Jack pondered if those who spent enough time in a cell would eventually turn to the stars for company. Such ponderings were interrupted when the once fading steps of the Beefeater became the booming, flat-footed steps of another.
Hello, Jack Millers. How does it feel to be a prisoner in the historic Tower of London?
Well, it's awful. Naturally.
Naturally, yes. So, do you still claim that you are not the true Ripper?
I do. I don't profess me innocence on the oath. I shall answer for crimes I've committed another time, but this one I shan't. Talking my liberty isn't going to stop them. I'm telling the truth. Please believe me.
I'd like to, Jack. But think, all of the Ripper's characteristics and actions are consistent with your identity. Are we to ignore that much evidence?
It's inconsistent. I was at the Watley Mansion when the double homicide happened.
Can you prove that you weren't working alone, then? The murders being so close could have been a deliberate choice of yours and your co-conspirator to throw us off your scent. What you have done is unforgivable. Do you know the weight of your horrors?
I know it. And I told you I'll accept punishment in time. My concern for the present is whether the police are equipped to protect Emily Whiteley. What's become of Holmes and Watson? Do they have the skill to keep her from harm?
Ah, yes. You're from the same class as them, aren't you? I have more interest in that other group of friends you have. The ones from a certain organization, to be specific.
Don't know what you mean.
Plain dumb. Very well, then. Even if you never admit your guilt, God knows the truth. He watches and he sees all you've done.
So what? You ain't God. You'd best worry more about watching London. Jack the Ripper is still out there. Of that I can tell you.
A curious statement, as there hasn't been another murder since we have taken you into custody.
Just tell me if Emily Whiteley is safe. Do you know what she's doing now?
I'm not obligated to tell you anything. Now, I'm sure you know this, but your chances of avoiding the rope are slim to none.
None, I'm certain, and I accept that. I only wish to go without regret. And dragging her in my world is me one regret.
That's very kind of you. Were you responsible for that letter, as it happens? The one in red?
I didn't write that, no. Putting that in the paper made the police look rather desperate too, it did.
We will do whatever we must to protect London.
Oh? Like what?
If what you say is true, and you wish to work with us, then I will allow it on one condition.
Jack waited, a sign of his consent.
Tell us what you know about that organization you work with. Perhaps you won't share this willingly, but we are not above achieving the same information through torture.
What?
The offer stands till you speak otherwise. If you feel even a trifle of guilt for your sins and your desire to save her is genuine, you'll consider it.
Inspector Lestrade turned away. Jack was left with only the stars once again. Poor Jack. Talk about being caught between a rock and a hard place. Several days had passed since I began living in secret inside a hotel at the north end of London. Oh, fancy. No one other than Pendleton knew I was here. My only means of information, of one-way communication with the outside, was through the newspaper. Uh-oh. And this particular morning's paper left me violently distressed upon reading its front page. This is a sham! Surely it can't be true!
What is it, my lady?
The following was printed in bold. Jack the Ripper is finally caught. The suspect in police custody, Jack Millers, has reportedly denied all charges related to the murders. An investigation is currently underway. Millers was arrested at the Whiteley family mansion, located in the city's southwest, by several policemen who were guarding the building. His arrest has been credited to the brave efforts of Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard, as well as trainee detective William H. Watson. What is the meaning of this? I looked to Pendleton, who could only return my pleading with solemn eyes.
I'd hidden today's paper on top of the shelf in hopes you wouldn't find it, but I see you did.
I was wondering, I'm like, surely you wouldn't have let her see this newspaper. Of course I did! Why would you even think to hide something so important from me?
Forgive me, my lady. I thought that, given the circumstances, it would be wise to avoid anything that would place undue stress upon you. So...
That's very sweet of you, Pendleton, but I shall gladly take on stress if it means knowing the truth in return. Jack taught me so much that I never knew before. Pendleton, I know of how you rack your brain for my sake. You wish to see that I never come to harm, and that I never know the true meaning of danger. You do it because you genuinely care for me. I'm aware, trust me. I am aware. Perhaps in your mind, your methods will help me to forget him.
My lady.
I wish I didn't have to worry him so. But how could I continue to live a lie? It's bizarre, really. This music... I feel as though I'm unable to forget him. On the contrary, the more time passes, the more I long to see him again. This isn't right. He came to me, risked untold dangers solely to try and help me. Yet in his hour of greatest suffering, I can't do a single thing for him.
It is true indeed that he made no attempt to kill you, and that he did all he could to aid you. But let us not mistake this act of goodwill as a man of goodwill, for we mustn't dismiss the countless unforgivable sins he has committed to date. If the true culprit behind the Ripper murders is apprehended, that doesn't erase Jack's own crimes, and he will most certainly be unable to escape the death penalty for them. You may discover this truth and expose the culprit, naked for all to see and judge, but neither he nor Jack will hurt as much as you for it.
His lecture weighed heavily upon my heart. I agreed on all points, but it still wasn't enough for me to falter. This music is so good. I know. You're quite right, of course, but please. Jack is being kept within the Tower of London now, isn't he? I wish to see him.
Absolutely not. I cannot allow that. Were you to go see him now, you would undoubtedly paint a target on your back for the true Jack the Ripper.
Pendleton! Don't make me say it again. I wish to see him.
Please, take another moment to calm down and think rationally about this.
I'm very calm. Now, look at this. I procured a carefully folded document.
What is this?
It lists members of an organization that Henry Millers, Jack's father through adoption, is secretly intimate with. His name is here on this list, you see, though it isn't his real name.
My lady.
Jack the Ripper's work is yet to be finished. Not even close. He will kill 1,500 people. Target more innocent prostitutes.
Do you recall what the police concluded upon analyzing the handwriting behind that threat letter? Jack Millers wrote it.
They concluded as much, but Jack can write in a number of styles. In his class notes, he leaves the O open at the top, whilst the letter L consistently leans to its side. Then in his letters to me, he closes his O's, and his L's are very nearly straight. You can't see any ink blotches on the surface, but there's a lot of ink leaking through to the other side where he stopped writing. The dots of ink here and there on the other page must have come from the back of a piece of paper, too. To speak plainly, the letter was likely written by someone who took great care in copying Jack's handwriting. Don't you see it?
I see it now. You may be right.
He returned my summation with a soft smile.
You must forgive me once more. I believe I've been treating you a bit too much like a child.
Then you'll allow me to go to him?
I make no promises, but if you feel so strongly about it, then I shall see what I can do.
Oh, thank you! I know it isn't an easy decision for you, but you don't know what it means to me to hear that.
I only would like you to prepare yourself for what he has to say. It may not be something you want to hear.
I'm prepared. I've been ready to accept the truth since some time ago. So I said, but I felt an inclination I was trying to ignore well up in my chest. I could see him again, but would I be able to save him? Could I say that with certainty? You protected me, Jack, but you're still a guilty man. I'm happy to know we'll meet again, so why must anticipating the truth frighten me so?
What is it?
Oh, pardon me. It's nothing.
Are those tears I see?
They aren't. I'm not crying, but... Excuse me, I must go wash my face.
Once you've calmed down, shall we go to the Tower of London?
Please. His smile grew softer.
Very well. I'll arrange for a cab to take us to the station, then.
I was elated. I was afraid. I took deep breaths to regain focus again and again, but the emotions continued to duel one another in a gainless bout to dictate what I would do next. Truly, for what reason did I struggle like this? I would see Jack, and no matter what he was going to say, I would accept it.